Yes, so thanks for the introduction, Henrik, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'll have the honor of presenting a joint work with Rami, Mari, and Marius, who are all colleagues from Simula. And in general, the umbrella topic is this glymphatic system, which to some extent has been discussed also in Pietro's and Marius' presentations. But basically, it's a proposed waste clearance mechanism of the brain, because well, from my understanding of biology, there is no lymphatic system to remove waste from the brain. So some people have hypothesized that the way to remove the plaques and buildup could be that you have some flow along these pulsating arteries that would then cross some barriers. They enter the parenchyma. Here there is some possibly convection diffusion where the waste binds to the flow and then leaves the system. So you can study on multiple scales. So Marius' presentation is almost at the level where we are dealing with these tiny spaces surrounding the arteries. For the purpose of this talk, we will be on a larger scale, and we will be discussing flow around these pile arteries. What I wanted to mention as why I think entering this field with mathematical modeling is a good idea is that you have quite a disagreement in the community. Like, you have a science paper from 2013 which claims the direct opposite of something that has been reported in Nature in 2024. And this has been done with mice. So I think if people come in with a computer and that works reliably, produces predictions, then we can assume this role of people who sell shovels when there is gold rush. So this is a challenging system to model. It's a coupled mixed dimensional system, and in this cartoon I tried to sketch the situation around one of these arteries that dive into the parenchyma. So inside here we have a flow, like the previous speaker was presenting, governed by some Navier-Stokes. This blood barrier, or this vessel wall, can push fluid in the PVS spaces, which we will assume is governed by Stokes. And then this wall can also pulsate and then interact with the surrounding media, which we can model differently. The simplest model would be Darcy. Marius is using BO. We can have Stokes. And there are also, of course, works that address these different interfaces individually. But we would kind of like to have this system together. So it's a complicated thing. So we will make some assumptions. First of all, we will forget about the blood flow, where let's say the main argument is that the pulsations that heartbeat introduces are on a much shorter time scale than we are interested in here. So that would be order of like seconds versus days. And then we will also, for simplicity, assume that somebody already gives us the deformation of these inner and outer wall of the PVS space. So, but I would claim that even after this simplification, the still main challenge comes from the complexity of the geometry. So if we were to mesh all these spaces around the vessels and then couple it to the brain in some mesh conforming fashion, this is a tough goal. So you follow the idea of model reduction. So this is basically what also Mark was discussing previously. The question that we addressed was how do you do the reduction in the PVS space for the Stokes flow, and then how do you couple then the resulting 1D model in terms of adduction diffusion to the adduction diffusion in the parenchyma or in the surrounding media. So the starting point for this model reduction is some time-dependent Stokes problem. Again, just as a reminder, we are interested in the flow in this region between the two cylinders, and the idea is that this space is much more tighter than it is long. So basically you assume that you can make the assumption that both pressure and the velocity are for the most part constant on the cross sections, and in particular the flow is mostly along this center line, which is your representation for the geometry. So if this is the case, the field on the cross section is well characterized by its mean, and then you invoke some standard machinery, so that you end up with this Stokes-Brinkmann-like problem, where this lower order term, which was not previously here, is the result of the model order reduction, and I highlighted here in this cyan color all the terms which are also related to the cross section. So in particular, this prefactor here is something that is specific to the shape of the cross section, and there's analytic formulas for how to, or there's formulas for how to obtain it. Now I will claim that from the point of view of the implementation, the main challenge of making this model run on a network, even though one has the governing equations for these branches, is the fact that these flow problems are coupled in this way. So we have the pressure field where you assume continuity on the graph or on the network, but there is some jump condition on the fluxes. Now, if you want to discretize this, the Phoenix on manifolds works already since 2013. So this could fly. The problem is that you would not, well, if you are like stickler for mass conservation, you would not be happy with this discretization. So an option is to, for example, drop this term, which the viscosity term, which is small anyways. Then you obtain a Darcy-like model. And if you eliminate the flux variable, you obtain a graph Laplacian problem. Again, same argument. This can run in Phoenix, but the mass conservation comes to bite you again. So the correct way how to address the mass conservation issue is to follow these ideas of hybridized mixed methods and introduce Lagrange multipliers that enforce the conservation of mass in the bifurcation point. So these are sort of like tricky concepts from the point of view of Phoenix, because these are spaces that are in a point. And we also need to make sense of this jump, because it's hard-coded actually in the Phoenix standard Phoenix assembler, is that the jump is the difference between two facets, and this interior facet integral only assumes two facets. There has been some works by Joe and Cecile that address this issue in a case of this 1D problem, but I will claim that the current way is suboptimal, because this problem here, this 1D reduction, is just a special case of what happens if you had a fracture, and then your bifurcation becomes a line, and you actually need proper spaces, not zero-dimensional scalars, but they are proper polynomial spaces on these distinct quantities. Okay, so that's the reduction of the Stokes problem. You can, yes, and the second thing I promised was show you how to do the reduction of the coupling. And for simplicity, I will assume that we are just having diffusion here. Again, somebody gave us the wall motion. In this case, the starting point is the 3D problem. It's not. It's very similar to what Pietra was presenting. So actually, you have assumption of the continuity of fluxes, but the concentrations can have a jump. And when you invoke this 3D 1D reduction machinery, you end up with a reduced problem like this, which you now solve for a 3D potential, which is defined in the entire domain, and a 1D potential, which is defined on the center line. Now, interestingly enough, this is a well-posed problem in standard Sobolev spaces. So you can do error analysis. This is the paper with Rami, and use standard finite element schemes. So that I would just like to maybe contrast this with a different approach than earlier work by the group of Alfio Quarteroni, where the coupling was done through these type of terms, which in particular take advantage of the trace, or the required trace of this 3D variable on the line. This has issues from the point of view of regularity. And from the point of view of implementation, the main challenge here is that actually the center line is preferably not something that is made from edges of the 3D mesh. So it's not something that really follows the mesh view idea. And even if you were able to have the trace on this type of object, you have this regularity issue. So you really want to have this type of non-local averaging operator. So now the question is maybe how we implemented this. And I maybe apologize for these slides in advance because they reflect, this is from the Phoenix book. So this cartoon is a lot older than the recent preprints. But I still think that there's a difficulty in extending Phoenix to cases which fall out of the abstractions that the creators of this like beautiful piece of code had in mind. And I'm not a researcher in implementation. I will take any tool that gets me to the goal of having a implement of the discrete or something where I can discuss properties of the discretization. I do research in preconditioning, so this is also I need mostly that and of course the application to the modeling. So what I will settle for is some implementation which is more in line with this. It's also like from this Jerry Sussman. So I will discuss this MUD-like implementation. So you might have to make some trade-offs. So I will settle for something which is simple and flexible, that is like as understood by me, and I will sacrifice parallelism, for example. And again, like this equality here, that's just like a personal view. Of course, like this is not the it needs to be done proper eventually, but I'm not the person that is kind of capable of doing that. So I will just advocate maybe for this a different point of view of how to approach this. So the kind of the child of all these ideas is this triple of softwares that are available and you can use it. And the main abstraction that we basically introduce is how we think about the result of running assembler on the UFL form. So in Phoenix, when you have a UFL expression and you assemble it, you get back a matrix. Now, it can like especially in these coupling terms where you have some operator pi here, which I will call like broadly reduction operators. The natural representation of this object is in terms of a composition of some, like I say, like a mass matrix, and then this representation of a reduction operator. So what if instead of having the target be the matrix, you would have this AST of the expression? This is the core idea. So our interpreter targets this CBC block AST instead of matrices. I'm basically showing you here almost the entire code of this assembler. And of course, this is the guy that does the heavy lifting, because this is the one where you need to obtain the representation of the averaging operator through performing the quadrature, etc. Yeah, and then I mean, it's not that much work. At the end of the day, it allows you to write the code that very much mirrors the mathematics, which I think is always like the goal behind Phoenix. And it supports lots of reduction operators. So we can do traces like Francesco and Joe's and Cecile's branch. We can do injections, which is something which allows you to investigate this ISO P2P1 elements. And like recently also for some works in preconditioning, we can reduce these, we can basically form aggregates and make them talk to some lower the representation. So to conclude, yeah, this would be more impressive if it could rotate, but after 20 years, I still cannot embed videos in Beamer. But anyways, it's a proof of concept of something that's 3D and runs nicely. There is some ongoing work. I mean, it's 5 years since I wrote this, so it's time for a rewrite based on the features. And yeah, thanks for the attention.
I think